York City home sellers have been begging people to buy their properties in the midst of a disaster housing market. Manhattan condos and co-ops are at a 10-year low on price per square foot, and since the pandemic have dropped 21%. Over the last 10 years, Manhattan prices per square foot are down 27%. The greater New York City area has undergone a 20% drop. Meanwhile, US prices per square foot have increased by 66%. In the midst of Mamdani's saying, "Freeze the rent,"
it's true. As your next mayor, I will freeze your rent.
Citizens having hour-long lines to see a 300-square-foot apartment and Manhattan rents skyrocketing, and to 10% increases a year, why are 1 out of every 3 Manhattan condos selling under asking price? New York City is experiencing what you could call a housing paradox. On one hand, the population is climbing again after the pandemic, back to 8.4 million residents, according to the New York City census, and is on the rise over the last 3 years, up 2% since 2022. But on the other hand, you have falling condo and co-op prices. Usually we would expect rising population to push up ownership values, but that is not what we are seeing now. Part of the problem is high mortgage rates. Every time a buyer looks at today's 7% mortgage, it essentially doubles their monthly payment compared to 10 years ago. This is reflected by looking at which cities are best to buy or rent. This article shows that owning the median New York City housing now costs 42% more per month than renting a unit. When this happens, what you see is buyers stepping back. Another part of the problem is that saving for a down payment has become impossible. Today, we are seeing rising rents along with falling savings. This chart shows that after the pandemic, Americans have been saving at the lowest yearly rate since the 2008 economic crash. Along with the growing consumer debt crisis, nobody wants to enter the ownership pipeline in New York City. This is well shown by looking at different cities' average age of home ownership. This article shows that New York City has one of the largest gaps between population age and average age of homeowners. This doesn't happen on its own. It is the direct outcome of affordability collapsing. Now the question is, if ownership is falling, where are these people going? The answer is simple: renting. Whenever would-be buyers are trapped in renting, it is shortly followed by rent spikes. Zillow already reports that New York City rents are the highest in US history. Wait, Boston has the highest rents in the US. This is essentially a self-reinforcing cycle, and the consequences of doing this, letting the rental market absorb ownership failures, could be disastrous. The question is, what could reverse this? Office to residential conversions. New York City currently has 95 million square feet of empty office space. This is a setup that we unfortunately do not think will end well for commercial real estate, but could benefit housing. Companies that use office space need demand to justify rents, but that demand is dead. Today's situation is no different from other commercial downturns. If these buildings are converted into condos, it would lead to a new wave of lower-cost units, something we haven't seen in decades. Conversions tend to be more cost-effective than new constructions. They can be completed up to 20% cheaper than building new residential units from scratch. Not all office buildings are suitable for residential conversion. Only 3% of New York City office buildings meet the criteria for such projects. In the aftermath of the pandemic and rate shock, New York City housing has essentially been frozen. Prices are falling not because people are leaving, but because ownership math no longer works. What is strange about today is that the fundamentals of the city, job growth, population, demand for housing, are strong, yet the ownership market is incredibly weak. The question is not whether New York City condo prices will recover. The question is, how long will this continue? And what combination of lower rates, increased supply, and returning buyers will be needed to revive confidence?